Good afternoon, everybody. This will be a short one because actually there's not a whole lot of information on the slides, but discussion for needs assessment 3 and 4. Really, what you kind of need to kind of think about there is that we are asking for similar information. However, one of them is for qualitative, one of them is for quantitative, and so as long as you're doing both of those things, you should be able to complete this. Now, if you are in the part of the process where you have not yet done your interviews for your particular stakeholders, then I would like for you to write about how you plan to do this. And so be as detailed as you can be. Make sure that you're following the guidelines for the assignment itself and answering everything. Because what will happen is if you've not gone through that process yet, then you can tell us how you're going to plan to do this, and then once you do have your meetings, then you're going to go back and you're going to actually tell us what actually happened. And does that make sense? I hope it does make sense, because we'll look at that. As you can see, there are the participatory approaches that are listed out on the site as of Monday. These are important ones to consider, and I hope that you will, because I think they could be beneficial, especially given that you want things to go well, and you want to be as inclusive as possible, and so that would be kind of nice. And I also, well, we'll talk about that here in just a minute. So you can look at there's just a few slides here, and so quantitative tends to be a lot easier for folks to kind of think about, because you're used to doing this already. And so let me make sure I'm at the right place here. So think about your for your interview guide, of course, what you're doing is you're developing your need assessments goal. You're going to be using some of the literature that you have done on this. Some comments from last week. Let's stop there for just a second. So you got your needs assessments 1 and 2 back, and so a lot of feedback. I hope that you've taken some time to look at this. I have some concerns. Some of you are not really making the case for what you want to do. Several of you did not include any references whatsoever, and that's just not good practice for a master's level student. You should always have citations. You should always be writing in third person instead of first person, because it's going to be a technical formal report. I have mentioned this several times, and I don't think I'm going to mention this again, but you need to be using APA formatting for in-text citation and also for your references. We're not using any other type, so I need you to adjust there. For those of you who are having some difficulty there, I think I probably shot you a website that you can go to. Also, the Writing Center can be kind of helpful in that aspect, and the CFAA through the library. They would be glad to walk you through that process, but everybody needs to be on the same page with this. So making sure that you're making your case, making sure that you're using professional language. Some of the questions I had some concerns about, and it's just that, of course, you're just testing these out, but be thinking about what you really want to know. I think that if you got some feedback that said that I wasn't really quite sure what you were asking, or if I felt like some of you are casting a broad net, and that's okay, because you're just looking to see what comes up. But some of you, I got the impression that you really wanted to know something specific, but you didn't feel like you could come out and just say that out front. But be direct. Be direct as much as possible. Be precise as much as possible too. So you're going to develop your needs assessment goal, which of course you're still in the process of doing that. And so thinking about how you want to develop quantitative and qualitative objectives. And so you can do all these information. You can draft your interview guide. Make sure that your questions are addressing your objectives. Make sure your questions are also addressing various aspects of the pre-seed model, whether it is 2A, 2B, 3, and 4. Look through that. Look through that educational, through that epidemiological, look through the environmental, and look through the social and behavioral determinants. Make sure you're asking those questions, because we want you to ask those questions that are related to that, because that's going to give you foundational information which you will use next semester. And really what we want to prevent you from having to do is to go back to your population and ask some things again, which maybe in a lot of cases that's okay, but if you can get it all up front, get it all up front, because you may not have that ability to do that. Use theories if that's a possibility. If that's always a good thing, that can kind of help guide your questionnaires as well. And then also, if you're doing your literature review like you should, if you find some things that other folks have used and they have been tested, again, not asking you to reinvent the wheel, use and modify what they have done. All I would ask is that make sure that if it's not coming specifically from you, just cite your source so that we know where that information came from. Then if you have the ability to pilot test your materials, whether it's through peers, professors, your target population, that's always a good thing to kind of do, because that will be helpful to you. Let's see, sorry. Your guidelines, your questionnaire, it's going to need an introduction. It should be organized logically, and again, go back to the perspective of don't ask the very hard questions up front. Give them something easy to get started out, and make sure that you have some transitions so that you're not just jumping from one topic to the other. Once you get your pilot materials and you have that tested and listened to by other folks, revise those based upon the feedback, and then after that, you're going to administer your survey. So in thinking about your writing methodology, we did include a couple of examples that we hope are beneficial. And so for writing up your qualitative methods, look at this. This is good. You can use this kind of a framework. So for example, you're telling us at the beginning, you're telling us what type of interviews that you did, the number of people, telling us when this happened. And you're telling us what you're looking to do, or what you wanted to explore. How you selected folks. If there's some funding, which of course that's not here, then you could kind of skip that. If you're going to offer any type of incentives, whether it's food, whether it's a drawing for something, and incentives are not necessarily a bad thing. They can help you get those people to come and talk to you. But if you're going to use incentives, just make sure that you're telling us what they are. Your interviews, how are you going to transcribe them? Are you going to record them? Make sure that you're asking for permission to, and then how are you going to analyze? And so just don't tell me that you're going to come up with a document to kind of compare. Tell us exactly how you're going to analyze that. If you're going to be using well, maybe not on your qualitative, but most likely probably thematic analysis is going to be good on that. And then just kind of let us know how you went through that process. Are you the only person who's looking at this? Is somebody else assisting you? And I think you'd be okay there for your qualitative. So your quantitative methods, you're probably more used to this, and it's a little bit more in depth. And so here they're giving you examples of how college students attending wherever were looking to participate in an online survey, assessing what. You can tell us how the survey was made, how long it's going to take to administer. If you pilot, tell us who you piloted with, and then final revisions were made. And then how did you go about selecting people who were going to be a part of this? That's going to be important. And what's the criteria for selection? What are you actually doing to recruit people? And you can you can see if there's any kind of exclusionary criteria that you want to include there. Oversampling is always a good thing, whether in qualitative or quantitative, because somebody inadvertently always drops out or does not follow through. So shoot a little bit higher than what you're looking to do, and I think that will be helpful to you. It's telling here about how this was stratified between graduates and undergraduates, how people were eligible to participate. For completing the survey, students were entered into a drawing for a prize. Okay, there's your incentives right there. And then tell us who completed the survey, and then you can speak to us regarding this. Now, if you're using measures, these are your variables. Just look at this information here. I think this goes through some of you are only going to use descriptive. Some of you are only going to use qualitative measures, which is fine. But if you're going to, when you're looking at your how you're going to assess, and they give you some information here, and I'm trying to read. And they give examples of the questions. They give, examples, some of the Likert scales, how you base certain items such as BMI. Where am I missing this? Oh, okay. Well, just you can talk about your measures, so I was getting ahead of myself. I'm so sorry here, but take a look at this. I mean, we put this out here because it may be helpful for you. And then when you're looking at analysis, and especially with your quantitative analysis, looky here, bivariate relationships using chi-squares and t-test statistics, talking about independent variables and weight misperception of college students. They use multiple logistic regression, multiple linear regression to kind of adjust for covariates. So, I mean, I think you can look at this, but tell us how you're going to do your analysis, especially for quantitative. And really, that's all we really kind of needed to talk about this week for that. Now, what I will say, give me just a second here, folks. Ooh, before I run out of time here. Give me just a second. So you do have a group activity that I'm asking you to participate in. So there is a survey, a question development that we would like for you to participate in. And so you can, is it here? Let's see. Sorry, wrong thing. Let's go back here. Here it is. It's a Word document. So really what you're going to do, every one of us, you're going to tell me what the needs of your, tell us what the goal of your needs assessment is. Tell us what your problem of interest is that you're looking to explore. And then give us some examples of modifier factors that contribute to the problem. And modifiable just means that you're willing to work on it. So if you're looking to alleviate world hunger, everybody having more money, which would help, but that's not really something that's really modifiable at this point. So you don't have to fill all of these, but I think that the more that you have that are modifiable, the more options you have. So be as detailed as you can be regarding modifiable factors contributing to the problem. And I would like you to be thinking about factors that map on any type of theory. On the on-ground class Monday, they talked about health belief model. They talked about social cognitive theory, precaution adoption model. There were a lot of different ways that they were thinking about this. And again, sometimes if you use theory is not a bad thing because it can kind of help guide what you want to do, and it makes it a little bit easier for you. And then on the back page, I would like for you to develop 1 to 2 qualitative assessment objectives. Again, thinking about goals, your overall goal, broad, and then objectives. What steps are you going to be taking to get to that goal? So give me some qualitative assessment objectives, give me some quantitative. And then you can identify survey questions in the literature targeting at least one of the modifiable risk factors identified in your diagram. So you can list survey questions or the scale, and then give us the source citation. So everyone is going to do this, and what I would like for you to do, and I'm about to run out of time. I'm sorry. Let's see here. Sorry. It's due on the 31st at midnight, before midnight, and then what I'm going to do is distribute these back to you so that everybody can give some peer review on this. I think that would be very helpful. I think that I'm probably going to maybe give you, everybody's probably going to get 2. I think that's fair. And so make sure that you've done this in the Dropbox. Make sure, and then I'm going to distribute, and then I would like to have these back no later than 11/2. So help us out. This makes all of us better students and makes for us for a better class. If you've got questions, please be sure and reach out to me. I didn't have very many folks on the the online section who wanted to meet on the 20th and actually discuss their project. And so we'll just go from here. But of course, if you would like to do that, we can do that. But keep things in mind. I appreciate the work that you're putting in. I know that this is a very stressful time of the semester for everybody. And I hope you find a good way to take care of yourself. Okay? I'll talk to you soon next week.